We're live at the fourth annual CISO Ensemble, and we are delighted to be looking under the hood with the founder of Stand Out in 90 Seconds, Ashwin Krishnan. We're going to look at the CISO pathway. On our panel, we are very pleased to be joined by a wonderful group of individuals. Del Ameko, CISO at Theta Point Inc., Seth Fogie, Information Security Director, Penn Medicine, Michael J Archuleta, Chief Information Security Officer at Mount San Rafael Hospital. How are we all doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Well, this panel, it is seeking to, look at the people behind the role, and I think that Ashwin, maybe we should start by asking you, because of course you'll moderate it, but tell us a little bit about your work with Stand Out in 90 Seconds and the rationale behind it.
Yeah, it's a great question. So just coming off the previous panel, there was a lot of talk about different career pathways and people who've influenced. And the panel before that, I was hearing the talk about soft skills. So the standard 90 Sec is really talking about who are the human beings behind the name and the title, right? And I know there was a question, I think Manrod before this was talking about, okay, how do you really get to know a person in a 60-minute interview, right? And what I try to do is get to the backstory behind, and Philip, you've been on the show, so you know this firsthand, is getting to know the why behind the who. And it's unscripted. You have no idea what questions are coming at you. And so you have the only time you have is to be yourself. There's no facade,
Yeah.
there's no teleprompter, none of that BS, right? So I go straight in, I go for the jugular, I open you up, you are who you are, and the audience responds with that, right? So, and it goes back to what we talked about earlier, right? We're all going to run into situations where things are not going to go well. And ultimately, what determines how we respond to that is who we are and what our beliefs are and what our value system is and where we came from, right? And so that's the backstory behind why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Fantastic. And just to reassure our panel, we're not quite going down the,
You're not.
gloves off route this time. We thought we'd blend that approach by asking you about your career, your trajectory, and what is that path? What is that ladder? And so on and so forth. So it's a good blend of genres. Ashwin, I will leave everyone in your capable hands.
Thanks, Phelan. Yeah, it's great to have all three of you, Michael, Dell, and Seth on the show. So we're going to go through a round of introductions, but along with those introductions, I'm going to dive into the first question. And that is really talking about how you got to be where you are today. Did you have a blueprint that was like in your teenage years saying, hey, this is where I'm going to be, and you kind of follow that path? Were there unnatural curves that happened? Were there mentors that got you? Were there a life setback that pushed you in a certain direction? So give us a little bit of a backstory about how you got to where you are today. So let's start with you, Dal.
All right. Ashwin, thank you. I'm glad to be here to talk to everyone, and I'm glad to be on this panel with such esteemed, peers. So first of all, yeah, how did I get here? Didn't really know. As a kid, I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a scientist, an astronaut, fighter pilot, you name it. I wanted to do all the cool stuff growing up in the 80s. I wanted to do all that cool stuff, right? But as I started getting into the workforce and started doing things, I started understanding that I was more of a problem solver, right? That was me by nature. I loved tearing things apart, putting it back together, fixing broken things, stuff like that. So once I started realizing that and I started getting in the jobs, working fast food, becoming the manager, solving problems, making things efficient, it started to translate when I started getting into my actual career. So, I started out in accounting. That was boring to me. Computers have always been a part of my life. I've always wanted to build computers. Everybody remembers, or if you're of a certain age, you remember the trash 80s and some of the computers you could go and build from Radio Shack, stuff like that. I loved computers and gaming systems and things like that. So eventually I moved over into computers And again, just like I did in fast food, I ascended up to management, got into directorship. And then back in the 90s, early 2000s, there wasn't a CISO position. IT managers handled all of the security. So it was kind of a natural transition because I would say regular IT became easy. You know, it was something that you started to understand. Hey, we don't have budget for it. Okay, I'm going to try and value engineer this thing and figure out what I can do. You know, but yeah, that was pretty much my path. Worked for a huge company. That's where I got most of my mentorship from. And then I stepped into government for a little bit, and now I'm here at Data Point. So
Awesome. I mean, love the backstory. And this is the kind of thing that we typically don't hear about, right? I mean, love the fast food, talking about computers, IBM 370. I'm dating myself too. So thanks, Del, for that. Seth, why don't we move on to you?
Yeah, again, appreciate being here and with everybody here. So, I kind of did the high school thing, had no idea what I wanted to do, tried to join the Air Force because that was where my father was. Tried 3 times to join the Air Force. They were always out to lunch, and the Navy saw me walk in, ended up joining the Navy. Entered in as a nuclear engineer. So, prior to that, I was a C student, didn't really care about education, wasn't really challenged. Nuclear engineering program really kind of challenged me, and I learned how to learn. Learned about systems. Spent 6 years in the military. Really didn't do much with computers until I started working on a degree. Degree was in workforce education and development, and I like that. I like teaching people. I like helping people, train people. And I had to buy a computer. I also met my soon-to-be spouse. Spent a lot of time talking with her. Learned more about the computer field, and probably because I grew up in a slightly a controlled family. My father was a police officer, so I was always looking for ways to break the rules. Found out about this thing called the internet and the slightly maybe gray area of the internet, and was just enamored. But I was still learning, so I took my degree. I had a couple paths to go when I got out of the military: nuclear engineering, workforce education and development. I like computers. My wife encouraged me to go the computer route, so I started out at help desk. Probably one of the best experiences, because you learn how to deal with people rapidly, quickly, helping them find what's right, wrong. Went from there, got my MCSE because that was the thing to do, and joined a small business, a retail business. Spent the next like 10 years there. That was another learning experience. They had SCO, Linux, Unix. I had to build the Wi-Fi. I had to take care of the phone system, the toasters, the microwaves. I mean, everything, right? It wasn't a big place, but they had every single possible solution technology under the sun. But it afforded me a unique opportunity to start writing on blogs. And somebody noticed me writing and say, "Hey, would you like to write the instruction set for the antivirus software that we're doing?" I was like, "Sure." So I started doing that. And this person became a mentor of mine kind of for the next 10 years. So he said, "I like what you're doing. Let's see if we can sell this as a book." So he did. And then that started like I involved like 9 different book projects at that point. But then that opened up doors to blogging more professionally. And I had to come up with content, and I like doing the security stuff. So I had a primary job and a secondary job. Got to speak at Black Hat and DEF CON of all this research and stuff that I was doing. But it was still like very, very technically centric. And I knew I had to probably break out of that. Went through a couple different iterations after that business closed, and landed in a hospital system where now I'm part of an enterprise. Have to think differently. I can't just go, install a patch or take down a server or whatever in the middle of the day. I'll be impacting patient care. So I've spent the next 17-ish years as part of healthcare systems, where really I've been learning how to present with my workforce education development, stay technical, engage with people, understand the customer, but then understand it from an enterprise perspective and make sure the enterprise's business is the priority, not the technical aspect. And I've been just working my way around through that organization, and that's where I've kind of landed now.
Wow. So we have two stories, again, completely different paths, right? So love the help desk, love the workforce education development, retail, and then getting to where you are. Michael, take us home.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys very much for definitely having me. So, Mike Archuleta, Chief Information Officer with Mount San Rafael Hospitals and Clinics. So, of course, we always talk about hard work, resilience, and really building strong relationships, which are definitely keys to anything that we do as long-term success. I really started with humble beginnings. My family was basically, they did not go to college. We were living in an underserved area. When you look at the Latino population in the technology industry, it only represents about 8% of the overall workforce. So I had some amazing individuals to really bring up. I again, really humble beginnings, grew up in government assisted living facilities, became the first individual in my overall family to go to college, to excel on different initiatives. Started out in technology just because I had a passion for technology and just really a commitment towards innovation. And I wanted to do something in actually making the technology work for people and to really improve on lives of individuals. So healthcare was one of those amazing aspects. So when I came in to healthcare, it was really during the Affordable Care Act. So when the Affordable Care Act started initiating and basically mandating a lot of these facilities to implement an electronic medical record system, it was kind of like a technology boom for the healthcare industry itself. Because when you look at this industry, unfortunately, we're many more years behind the curve when it comes to the finance industry, the oil and gas industry. But we've seen this big, technology boom during the Affordable Care Act because it was mandating these facilities to implement an electronic medical record system, or they were going to be penalized moving forward. So then, of course, a lot of these groups started saying, hey, we need to definitely get our strategy in place. So I remember coming in just because, again, the passion, wanting to basically do something around technology, looking at the overall infrastructure. I came in as an assistant IT network administrator for the organization. I moved my way all the way up, being the youngest and the first chief information officer for this organization, which has been absolutely phenomenal. I was also appointed by the governor of Colorado to sit on the Office of eHealth Innovation as an eHealth commissioner to basically focus on the complete technology and cybersecurity roadmap for the state of Colorado. I sit on multiple specific, just progressive healthcare, cybersecurity startup firms that are basically doing some amazing things. So at the end of the day, though, starting from these humble beginnings, I really did have that overall grit in place. I wanted to create something that I never had. I wanted to improve on the daily lives of the use of technologies for people. And it's just been a phenomenal time in being in technology, especially in healthcare, because I mean, look at what COVID-19 has really done to this industry. We've seen the importance of what IT really is to an organization. We see the importance of incorporating IT as a core component to the overall organizational initiatives. And we see that we got to get rid of the stereotype of IT just being an actual cost center, but a strategic revenue contributor to the organization. And when we look at cybersecurity in healthcare, we basically go away that cybersecurity isn't just about data, it's also a matter of life and death. And that's really the point where we basically look at too. So again, the pathway was really a humble beginning. I had some phenomenal mentors that really allowed to bring me up, to mentor myself, to get me to the positions that I basically needed. I'm part of the College of Healthcare Information Management Executives. I'm also part of HIMSS, the Healthcare Information Management Social Society. I'm part of High Tech, which is basically an overall organization really promoting Latinos to really just excel themselves in the overall technology field. And one of my great mentors, Guillermo Diaz, they couldn't pronounce Guillermo in Silicon Valley, so they would call him G. He came from the same region that I'm basically from. He became the first Latino CIO for Cisco Systems, which we know isn't a small organization. So again, it's been some humbling beginnings, and we just continue to progress and we continue to move forward.
Wow, I'm getting goosebumps right now just listening to these three stories, right? And so I think this is phenomenal, just seeing the progression and Michael, the work that you've done to inspire another generation of Latinos and other immigrants coming into this workforce. So let's switch to Dell. Back to you about. I know you guys have talked about your path. So if I am an aspiring CISO, just assume, right? Imagine I have hair and I'm young and everything else, right? I'm a 25-year-old.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. What advice would you have for me? I'm looking at you, I'm all energized, I want to do it. But knowing where we are right now, knowing what you guys have learned from your pathways, but also putting, I hate to use the word, but I don't think we can avoid it, AI and what it's doing right now in the world we're living in. What advice would you give to an aspiring CISO in terms of what he or she should be doing, whether it's people skills, whether it's certifications, whether it's hands-on, I mean, whatever it is that makes sense. So let's start with you, Dal.
So I also mentor people because, just like Michael, I had humble beginnings, grew up really poor, government assisted stuff, all the stuff that, stereotypical, African American in this country. So, when I hear that question about how to mentor, I want to give back to people. People gave me an opportunity. I want to give them back. So that's why I mentor a lot of people. And if they come to me and they're excited about it, hey, I'm going to help you through it. I'm going to give you certain things. Back in the day, I'm going to show my age. We had encyclopedias, we had library. Right now, we got our phones, right? We can hit this and we can pull up any information on anything. So when I get with my mentee and I'm talking to them about specific things they need to do or understand, I don't talk to them about certifications and all the things that they know. They know that stuff, right? They know, hey, they might ask a question like, which one should I get next? Yeah, I can help you with that, right? But I want all of the skills that make you who you are. I want to understand, what is your value system, right? I need to understand that. Are you a problem solver, right? Are you a good communicator? And not only just a good communicator, are you a good translator? Okay, because a lot of times when you're a CISO, you have to translate specific technical, things, technical situations, and you have to translate that either to your C-suite, either to other employees, whatever the case. So you have to start to understand those aspects. And probably one of the number one things, and I think it's been mentioned, and it's been mentioned throughout the conference, is business acumen. You have to understand and have that business acumen. And if I was talking to young Dell or talking to young Ashwin, I would say understand the business that you're in. If you get hired onto an organization, you need to make sure that you understand what that organization does, what the vision and mission statement is. And I don't mean just read it and being able to articulate, kind of regurgitate it. You need to be able to articulate it. You need to be able to internalize it and know exactly how does that business make their money? What is the golden goose and how are you going to protect the golden goose? And how are you going to incorporate and inspire everybody else around you as a leader to protect that golden goose? So yeah, there's a bunch more, but I'm going to give everyone else an opportunity to talk too. So
Yeah, so let's move on to Seth. Seth, same question for you, right? But I'll add a twist to that, which is you're mentoring somebody, you're giving advice to an aspiring CISO, but by extending that, what advice would you give to younger Seth, let's say from 20 years ago, that had you known that, you would have done X?
Yeah, there. So everything that Dell says is relevant. Aspiring Seth, slow down uh, and enjoy the ride. Probably. The pace is intense, right? And I say that because it took me a while to actually slow down and enjoy the ride. So, foregoing all hobbies, foregoing, I won't say family. I'm a pretty good family guy, but I stopped doing the hobby thing. And you need to ground yourself in something other than tech, other than this world. So, I now make it a point to go. My hobby is snowboarding. So I go snowboarding, and like the team knows on Thursday afternoons, if all possible, I'm snowboarding, and I take that break. And those kind of things are important to make sure you maintain that balance. Everybody's passion is a little bit different too, so it just applies. Speaking to aspiring folks, one thing I look for is passion for security. If you don't have the passion, just find out where you do have the passion and go for there. I mean, it's kind of a cliche, but life will go well for you if you just follow your passion and the skills you have, the ways that you see the world, and everything else will kind of follow suit. Um, as far as younger folks, watch out for the binary view. Security is full of a lot of people that unfortunately see the world as it's insecure, we can't allow it, or it's all secure and we can't allow it. And we all know. I mean, look at the color gray here. We're all like dealing in a world of gray. It's not a binary field. And then I guess a quote that I've heard more recently from people I've looked up to is, how is the decisions that you're making enabling the business? Because that's what we're here for, enable the business. So that's just like a little thing I keep in the back of my head when I'm doing and interacting with people is we need to enable the business.
Awesome. Michael, same question to you, right? Advice to younger CISOs, advice to yourself. And I'll add another angle to this, which is what's one thing you think you would have done completely differently, knowing what you know today that we'd have done 20 years ago?
You know, listening to your parents. I think we all face that. You know, when we're very young, we think that we know everything, but unfortunately, we do not. And you know, just continuing to have that guidance from just elderly individuals that have been on this earth a lot longer than you have been is so critical. And I always say though too is that just remember where you came from. I think be proud of your overall focus there and really focus on empathy and active listening. I think that is so important. And really building relationships across all levels of the organization and really embracing that lifelong learning is such key elements to anything that we do because we want to be lifelong learners. And this is such an evolving overall change because the world of tech is changing rapidly. So should we as well. And that's really the critical thing is like, you know, I tell my individuals, I say the world of tech is changing rapidly. So should you as well. Embrace these specific changes, incorporate them for the good. And as everyone was basically stating, you are the overall chief information security officer, chief information officer of the organization. We can't always think of tech, 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 tech. We have to think of the overall business as a whole. Being a business leader first and then incorporating the technology strategies are so critical moving forward because you really have to know the organization as a whole before you really incorporate that. And that's how you really get a seat at the overall C-suite as well. Because if you can really bring in those initiatives in place, create strategies and really enhancing the technology initiatives that you're looking at implementing, you're really going to just be a change maker moving forward, which is so important.
Okay, that's a great segue. So I'll stick with you, Michael. Phelim hasn't shown up, so I think we have a little bit more time. Is sticking on that same pathway, which is given again, just among the three of you, the very diverse pathways to get to a CISO. But then once you're in that role, how do you earn and retain trust with your extended team, which have come from completely different pathways themselves, right? So, how do you not get straitjacketed into person X or highly technical or a person with X number of certifications? How do you expand your horizon so that you actually earn the trust of the broader, diverse team that you're managing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, number one is transparency. You have to be honest about challenges and risk without sugarcoating. That's basically the bottom line. Incorporate some of that empathy, really understand the unique struggles of different team members, technical and non-technically alike. I think that's really important to know the specific differences there. Accountability. I'm so big around accountability of taking ownership of successes and failures alike. I think, of course, if we fail, we have to take accountability on those specific items. And that continuous learning, we have to show humility by actively learning from others, regardless of their positions or backgrounds. That's really important. And having that overall vision approach is really critical because we have to inspire our team by communicating a clear vision by cybersecurity and how it aligns with our overall organizational goals moving forward. I think if we can have those strong alignments, that strong vision in place, that strong structured communication, that's how you really start basically earning that trust and respect moving forward with your overall team and your overall organization as well.
Great, great point. Same question to you, Seth.
Yeah, ditto everything Michael said. I actually wrote down admit failures and celebrate the successes too, because I respect a person who can admit to failure and see how they can learn from it. And it shows that they're humble enough to admit it and learn from it. And we all fail. That's how we learn. Um, the other thing I would like to, going back to the point you asked about before, maintaining a work-life balance and making sure that the team understands that really respect that they have work-life balance. So I want to, do what I can to ensure they aren't doing 60-hour work weeks. Um, and I'll stop there and hand it over to Dale.
Del, all yours.
All right, yeah, and everyone said everything that I was about to say. I definitely believe in active learning and definitely all that stuff. So I'll just go into more of internalizing it as a leader, as a CISO. And I know in the previous sessions there was talk of the name of CISO or whatever the case. I personally like the name CISO. You need a leader in the security space. You got to keep that. So stop playing around with these names. Again, as a leader, you have to be a servant leader, right? You have to serve your team. You have to show your team that you're passionate. Your team is going to know if you're just going to come in and you're just walking through the motions, just kind of, yeah, whatever, let's do this, let's do that, whatever the case. But if you're passionate about something, if you're willing to jump in the trenches, if they're staying late and, hey, you got a function, you say, hey, you know what, I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to stay here with you guys, right? And guys and gals, right? I'm going to stay here with the team and they see that you're in the trenches, you're going to take off your jacket, you're going to roll up your sleeves, you're going to be there, let them lead, but you're there to support them. Those are the types of things that build that strong bond and relationship as far as being in this role. One last thing I will say, I know there's a difference between a technical CISO and a non-technical CISO. A lot of times when you're in that leadership role, a non-technical CISO might have those skills that can coalesce a team, bring them together, and make them successful. Because the more your team is successful, the more you are successful. So it just depends. It's hard, and we can talk about that at another time. But interviewing and figuring out, if that leader is going to have those skills, the skill set and the chops to be able to do that, that's one thing. But yeah, but that's what I would add, you know.
Great. So one of the things that seems to be resonating is this need for adaptation, admitting mistakes, continuous learning. So I'll put you on the spot, Dal, is what is one thing that you have changed your mind on, and what was the reason for that?
Wow. There's a lot of things I've changed my mind on, but when it comes to this specific space, I would say don't be surprised by anything. There's things that happen, and a lot of times you'll be like, "Oh my God, did that really just happen?" No, don't be surprised by it. And I'm going to steal what Michael said earlier, and you know, and I believe Seth said it. Somebody said it. Slow down. Because a lot of times a situation will come up and it'll hit you, and the first thing you want to do is react, react, react. But if you don't take that time and that opportunity to get up to 30,000 feet and look down so you can see the entire picture, yeah, you're really gonna be in a world of hurt and be myopic and too focused on the problem instead of seeing what other things are coming. Take the blinders off, use your peripheral vision, and make sure that you understand what all is going on. So yeah, great question. I like that.
I'm going to add something to that, Dal. This is one of my favorite quotes from Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space, we have the power to choose our response. How we choose our response leads to our freedom and growth. And to your point, it's like anything that we do, we do not have to react. We should not react. We need to kind of use that space. So I love that. Said same question to you, right? It is what's one thing you've changed your mind on recently?
Um, so I'll just one thing, just because it was hot today as a subject. Don't disregard a technology because they were lousy 2, 3 years ago. And always recycle, relook, go back and reassess. Things change, not just with net new, but the old becomes new again, and especially companies are investing themselves. Um, you just got to be careful, just having a bias and disregarding certain things that you may have had formed an opinion about in the past.
Michael, same question.
You know, the role of collaboration. I used to really believe cybersecurity was primarily a technical problem, but I've really since realized it's fundamentally about people. Cross-departmental collaboration and educating non-technical stakeholders are as important as deploying advanced tools. I mean, this is so critical here. And then also, too, just realizing that security has to be that core component to any overall organizational strategy if they want to continue to secure their organization and be a successful organization moving forward. That's been such an important thing because, as I've always stated, that cybersecurity isn't just about data security, it's also a matter of life and death. I mean, that is such a critical component that we have to realize. We also have to really focus on saying that what can happen on a financial level if a breach happen? What can happen on an operational level if a breach happen? What can happen on a reputational level if a breach happen? Incorporating these specific ways of thinking is so important moving forward because this really expands the overall knowledge of your board of directors, especially when you're looking at coming to them and saying, I'm wanting to invest in some more security initiatives. This is why. This is why we have to do this on those specific standpoints. And then also going away from the stereotype of IT being a cost center. As I've always stated, that we've always seen technology and IT as that cost center versus that strategic revenue contributor. And one of the actual saving graces of keeping an organization as safe and secure as possible. Because at the end of the day, hospitals and clinics are digital companies that deliver healthcare services. We're truly living in the digital age of healthcare, and we have to go away from that overall brick and mortar theology of what healthcare has really been built on. We have to bring in the theology of digitalization towards anything that we're doing because we are a digital company that delivers healthcare services.
Awesome. This has been a great session again. Thank you, Udal. Thank you, Seth, and thank you, Michael. And our MC is back. Phelan, back to you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for a lively debate as well. Great jokes even we have in the debate. Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate this addition to the ensemble, and it's very very complimentary to the all the other panels that we've had today. So, Ashwin, thanks for leading it, and Del, Seth, and Michael, a big virtual round of applause for you. I'll put you back in the audience.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Phil.
all.
Thank you, Ashwin. Thanks, guys.
See you
Pleasure.
soon. I'll put you back.
Thanks all.